everybody. Welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton, and with me this week is Kristen Smith.
Hello.
Yeah, we all love it when Kristen Smith is on, and it's an extra special episode because it's all about awards fodder movies. We've got three highly touted, well-traveled releases that have been at various times featured in various international and important film festivals, and have been loved by critics and audiences to varying degrees. And we are going to bring them to you today. How are you feeling, Kristen? Other than a little under the weather.
I mean, some of this shit is sad.
Yes. This is not, if you've come here for the feel-good movies of the year, other than
American fiction is kind of
American fiction, but the first, like, seriously, like, if you did a double feature of the first two films we're going to do in the order that we're going to be doing them, because the first two movies we're going to be doing is All of Us Strangers and American Fiction. If you went from All of Us Strangers and then immediately went over to do American Fiction, we're like, all right, I'm ready to laugh. I'm ready to feel good. After that first act of American Fiction, you might have just been like, fuck this, I'm bailing. Like, I can't do this.
Would have been a better experience than how I experienced All of Us Strangers, which was running while crying to the next theater to see Zone of Interest minutes later, which was a terrible decision.
Oh, but you'd already seen all of Zone of Interest, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to see it again because, like, it's a movie that is not like any other movie ever created. And I was like, I want to.
You were putting yourself into, though.
I know, but it was still just like, I have to watch a Holocaust movie after this. This is terrible.
Oops, where everybody is trying to ignore that the Holocaust is going on. Yeah. Okay. By the way, just, a peek ahead, very, very far ahead. In 2 weeks, we are going to be doing, you will be back here in 2 weeks, and we will be doing Zone of Interest. So I am already excited about our episode from 2 weeks, but we have a really awesome jam-packed episode for today. Like, and like, I saw 3 movies this weekend, and I flat out tell you, I was so not happy in the sense of like I was happy, but happy with the experiences because they did not disappoint. So for me anyway,
100%.
We'll obviously discuss. So we're going to try to do as much non-spoilery, at least on the first two. Fallen Leaves, I think it's an international film. I'm not entirely too worried about spoiling that one, but All of Us Strangers in American Fiction, we're going to try to do super non-spoilery until we get to the end of American Fiction, at which point you and I might just have to have a little side conversation while on the podcast and say, do we want to go ahead and spoil this? Because I think the last 5 minutes are worthy of a slightly more in-depth conversation. It's impossible to have that without spoiling. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with All of Us Strangers. Basically, it's a story of Adam Scott. Andrew Scott, sorry, not Adam Scott. Andrew Scott, who for me, most like I know him from the Benedict Cumberbatch Holmes series or Sherlock series, where he plays Moriarty. So that's where some people might know him from. He also does a lot of like British films and stuff. He hasn't done too many.
He was also Hot Priest in Fleabag.
Okay, so there, I haven't seen Fleabag, so there you go. Like, he's very, very much like big British star. And then Paul Mescal, who everybody should know from last year's just absolute gut punch, heart wrench, kick you in the face movie. Oh my God, I blanked.
After Sun.
Thank you, After Sun. I was like, what? We actually did that one last year, right here, and Paul Mescal comes back and does this one because apparently he doesn't like happiness. I don't know. Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's possible, but he is kind of hot.
Yes. So we'll have the conversation. Are you a hairy guy or are you an Adam guy at some point, at some point during this review? But basically, Andrew Scott plays Adam, who is, we are introduced first thing in the movie. he's a loner. Like, let's just be like, he is a writer, a screenwriter who is obviously, semi-successful because he can live on his own and he's not in poverty, but also clearly not like super uber successful. And he's presented as being very much alone, very much on his own, and you don't get the impression that like he has the personality that would be able to easily rectify that quickly. And then during a fire alarm at his flat, which is a super fancy, trendy flat, which just opened and is very not a lot of people living there yet. He encounters a very drunk Paul Mescal playing Harry. And Harry comes on to him, and Adam sort of rejects the advance at first, but then sort of the day after kind of regrets that, and then they start to form a honestly just a really touching, but it's also sad because these are two clearly lonely people.
I know, but they respect each other's space so well. And I
Yeah.
was just like, is it weird that this movie is kind of hot in the sense that like they are just treating each other with such empathy that I'm
Yeah.
just like, men with feelings, yes.
Yeah, and it's like they're both arriving in each other's lives just when they need it. And then in trying to do some research, it's the way I got it, for the screenplay he's writing. Adam goes back to his childhood home, and this is where it gets a little weird because he encounters his parents who see him, and they're basically he and his parents are basically the same age. So this is not like his parents today. This is parents in the past. And it's not a huge spoiler to say that it turns out his parents died. You don't find that out until like midway through the second act for sure. But there's a lot of hints that kind of give it away. And then they talk openly about it. And it's really a conversation about, or a movie about a man dealing with his current relationship and how his past relationship influences current relationship is I think the best way for me to describe it. Is that fair?
I would describe it like it's therapy because it
Yeah.
was therapy for me. I
Yeah.
cried a lot during this movie.
Okay. That's awesome. I'm a big movie crier for whatever reason. I didn't quite get there with this one. But like I got to the edge on several moments. So yeah, but that's the key is though, it really is that's what it is. It's therapy. And I think that, in the way I described it, which was, using past relationships to kind of forge how he's dealing with his current relationships. That's kind of what therapy is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's having to have like, I mean, and this is what hits so hard to me, like as a gay woman, like
Right.
who loves her parents, like had really conservative parents who accepted me as gay, as trans, and that like having to see him try to, as an adult, have these conversations he never got to have with his parents.
Because they
Like,
died.
because they died.
Yeah.
And so he never had to come out to his parents. He
Right.
never had to discuss the people in his life with his parents. And to see the evolution and the way that like both these parents both had unexpected reactions and also like had really sweet reactions. Like,
Oh boy.
my
Yeah.
God, the way
Yes.
the dad was just like immediately reckoning with all of his decisions and all
Yes.
the things that he said and being
Yes.
like, wow, it must have been a really difficult time for you here if
More the
that was
things
true.
more the things he didn't say. More the his dad needed to rectify the things that he didn't say and the things that he didn't do. And I thought that was I felt that his relationship with his mom was far more complex and far more difficult and far less resolved by the end than his relationship with his dad, which I found interesting because it was pretty obvious that his mom was very much a nurturer, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's relating to him on his terms. And it's obvious that she wasn't then, and she still isn't now. but she tries, but
Yeah,
it it's more difficult for her than it is for him. I thought him being the father.
yeah, like it definitely surprisingly had a much bigger impact on the mother.
Hmm.
And like the one scene which like if you watch the trailer for this movie, they prominently play the
Yeah,
song by the Pet Shop Boys.
right.
um oh, what's that called? Always on My Mind.
Yes,
And like
yes. That
that
they're
comes
having a
out
lot.
and I was like, God damn it, if this song comes out again, because
Yeah,
a lot of it's about like making up for things that you had not done for
yes,
somebody. And I was just like, waterfall the
yeah,
entire time.
yeah. And,
God.
and 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 while this is going on with his parents, he's also dealing with Harry, who is super supportive, but also, is it fair to say somewhat absent? Not in the sense that he's not there, but in the sense that um, there's just something not entirely there about him. I felt throughout the movie, like just that he's there, but also at the same time, it's almost like he comes drifting in and out very much the same way that you would expect parents to drift in and out of somebody's life, but
Yeah.
you mentioned that they're giving each other space, but also at the same time, it's like they clearly enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, because a lot of it, and like that's where like I think Andrew Scott was did such a fantastic job in this movie, is
Yeah,
that like his evolution of opening himself up to other people, and
yeah,
that like he never kind of like he kind of always felt like he had a lonely life.
yeah,
And like part of in talking and working with his parents again, like having therapy with his parents, this
yeah.
ghost parents,
Yes,
like like recognizing and like really examining like what he wants, and that yes, him being with Harry is something that he does want.
hmm,
And like it's it's just really like emotional, all the different emotions that he's having to try and process,
yeah.
but having difficulty conveying to the other person. But also I feel like a lot of times Harry kind of understands a little bit. Like the more information he's given, the more he's just like proves to be a really good partner
For
whenever
sure,
those times happen.
for sure. Yeah, and to and if here's how I would look at Adam and Harry too. Adam has a very constant base level of emotion, which is not great. Like, as we said in the opening, he's a loner. He is lonely, but he's also okay with that. You know, and he's not he as much as he's not he would like to be happy. He's also not like eager for it or searching for it. What he's looking for is just to be. Whereas Harry, on the other hand, is one of those wonderful characters. I love these kind of characters in the movies who are outwardly up, but inwardly super low. I mean, this is such a sad person who presents as being fun. This is a person who has figured out how to present as being fun, but just doesn't consider themselves fun at all. And that's always fascinating to me in a character, and especially how when they give the character the depth that they gave Harry, because which he's able to explore through his relationship with Adam.
Yeah, it's definitely, I remember, the more I think about it, the more I think I was so impacted by the parents that like
Mhm.
some of the other parts I didn't quite remember as much, because I know like they did drugs. I
Right,
remember they went to like different parties, and there was like a lot of like tripping that took place,
right,
like where he was like, it kind of almost seemed like dreamlike that he was going between like his home life and then to
mhm,
his family
right.
again. Like, can we talk about how really beautifully filmed, and also just like I was marveling so much about the direction and the
Yeah,
way that he was able to keep things like keep a story engaging even though like you're watching a dude for no explanation seeing the ghosts of his parents,
Right.
and he's taking it very well, and
Right.
he and like as an audience we have to buy it. We have
Yeah.
like to buy into it, and
And
like it,
but he never asks you to. Like that's the brilliant thing about it, because he doesn't explain it, and he just presents it and says, and doesn't say anything about it. Like you said, there's just no conversation about it. It just is. And I feel like that was a brilliant way to just get buy-in, because what are you going to do? Just say, oh well, that explanation doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, we're just not going to give you an explanation. This is what's going on.
yeah, and then also like the cinematography is so beautiful,
Yeah.
like the way that like I was thinking a lot about its editing and the way
Yeah.
that it's able to be very fluid in times, and
It's
kind of like it's cross dissolves between
yeah.
like these different scenes that are kind of all either it's like time you're not really sure what the time frame is of this entire movie for most of this movie.
Yeah. Right.
And
And it's simultaneous dreamy in the way that everything moves, but also gritty in how close you constantly are. And you never get the dreamy in the sense of floating up above, and it's dreamy in the sense just of camera movement and stuff, but also it's so close, and you're always so close to these characters that it's very real. It's very real.
it really is. I can't wait to experience this movie again, because
Yeah.
it's
All right.
it was a lot to take in, and I had zero time to process it.
Right. And by the way, I think we did a fantastic job of getting all the way up to the point where it's like, and then everything we've talked about becomes really interesting. So, but before we go to do our reviews, I want to talk Oscars really quick, and
Okay.
we're going to do that with all three of these movies, at least the first two. What do you think it does get nominated for? What do you want to see it get nominated for the most?
So it will depend a little bit on I think it'll depend on BAFTA nominations, which the British
Right.
film nominations are actually tomorrow.
Okay.
Um and
Well, this is
if
going to get a ton because it's a British film.
yes,
So,
so like if it gets a lot, then that means that the Brits have like there is an international voting block like in
uh-huh.
a lot of these different places, and like I can see Andrew Scott getting a surprise Best Actor nomination
Okay.
in the same way that Paul Mescal does. The problem is that it's a really difficult category. Like
It's a really
you have
difficult category.
Leo, you have Coleman Domingo, you have Jeffrey Wright in our next movie that we're going to be reviewing. You have
Jeffrey Wright is a bigger shoe-in than either of these two actors.
yeah, you have
Obviously.
Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers,
Yeah.
and you have
Yeah.
like Cillian Murphy, and then
Yeah.
you have like maybe a couple other people, and Andrew Scott's also there. So like
Yeah.
it's possible like he could surprise, and if he does, I mean, hats off. Like
Is Mescal up for actor or supporting?
he's supporting. I don't think he has a chance though.
No, I don't think so either.
And then the other area was adapted screenplay,
Yeah.
but then adapted screenplay got screwed over because they put Barbie in there.
Yeah, but I would say the most likely are Andrew Scott and adapted screenplay, and this could maybe get the international director slot, maybe.
I would say probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Because what we have in the running for director is very strange and
Right.
very dense.
Right.
And you have so many international directors, from Andrew Haig for this movie, for Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, for Jonathan Glazer for Zone of Interest, that like I could see those last two happen much more than the others, and and you still have to contend with Yorgo Lanthimos.
That's true.
Greta Gerwig.
Although I will say this: Yorgos Lanthimos has seeded his one share for the international by just making American films now, like with American stars. So like yeah.
True. But I think it's Glazer. I honestly do think a lot of people think it's Glazer.
I'll tell you what, the one that I would like to see most that's not going to happen, it would be Jamie Bell for supporting.
Oh my God. He's in my personal 5. Like I added him. He's like number 5 in my personal 5 supporting actor.
his role was, I'm not going to say it was the most difficult of this movie, because it really wasn't. But what he delivered was so strong and so perfectly toned for what he was doing. I was really impressed.
Yes. And also for me personally, seeing any depiction of a dad connecting with their son, with their daughter, with their child
Yeah.
will always get me.
Yeah,
It will always get me.
For sure. All right. Here on Real to Real Talk, we do tacos instead of stars. And if something deserves a little extra, rather than just 4 tacos, you want to throw a little extra, we don't do a half a taco, because nobody eats a half a fucking taco. We do a guacamole instead. So, Kristen, All of Us Strangers, where do you land on this one?
I give it 4 tacos plus guac.
Okay, and I'm the same, by the way. These are the best tacos, and this is just the best guac. And it's one of those rare instances where the guac just comes with the taco. You're not going to be charged extra for it, and it was made fresh, and it's delicious. And God bless these 4 tacos and the guac. This is so close to 5 tacos for me. This is just yeah. So
I think it could easily get that for me. I think I still need to process the turn at the end.
Right.
Because I did not have any time to think about what are my feelings for the left turn it takes at the very end.
Correct. So and we're going to stop by saying yes, there is a left turn, and we will move on. Before we move on to the next movie, I just want to highlight that you have a fan out there. My friend Blair's daughter Elby says that you are cool.
Oh, thank you.
So
you're cool.
LB is cool. All right. So next up, we're going to do American Fiction. Now, you opened by when you first hopped on the feed here, you said you had a story you wanted to tell. So before we dive into anything about American Fiction, please tell your story.
Okay, because it'll be really quick. So I was really into, being the high schooler that I was really into experimental fiction, like William Faulkner, like James Joyce. And so I did a short story class so that I could try my hand on dramatic experimental short stories.
Okay.
And I would pour my heart out into these stories, plan them, really play around with things.
Okay.
But I'm not a good writer. So my grades were terrible throughout the entire thing. No matter how hard I was working on something, I was getting progressively worse grades as the stories kept going. And so for the final story, I was just I'm so sick of getting all these poor grades. I'm going to show this teacher. So I made a comedy where all the characters were stupid. And I made my teacher the main villain, the stupidest of them all. And
did you give the character the teacher's name or something?
Yes, I did. I was full teenage angst. I was I am going to show this teacher how fed up I am with this class. And so I made this comedy, and instead of playing it out, the day before it was due, I improvised it in 30 minutes, wrote 4 to 5 pages. I read it once to proofread it and then submitted it. I was I don't care. I'm going to fail this class and I don't care anymore. And you know what happened? I got 100% on it because my teacher loved it, was super flattered. I made her the villain, even though I made her and every other character stupid.
Okay.
And I hadn't thought about that story in so long until I saw American Fiction. I'm yeah, I too wrote a fuck you story. And somehow it was the most successful thing that I wrote.
Yeah. So perfect segue. That is a great story to segue into American Fiction. You know what? I feel like this is a tough one, because this is not one movie. There are multiple things going on in this movie. So I am going to read the IMDb just brief blurb on it, just so that we can kick that off from there. A novelist who's fed up with the establishment profiting from Black entertainment uses a pen name to write a book that propels him to the heart of hypocrisy and the madness he claims to disdain. Okay, that's literally a subplot in this movie. Like that's the amazing thing, is that
I know.
that the thing that people claim this movie is about is actually a subplot. And the main plot of the movie, the writer is clearly the main character. I mean, you know, obviously, but the movie is about him and how he deals with people. That's what the movie's about. And more strenuous than that, specific than that, how he deals with his family. This is a family tragic comedy. Like that's what this is, you know,
I
in
know,
my
because it does not come off that way whenever you watch any trailer for the movie.
right.
And that was partially why I'm going to start off to say I was a little disappointed because I
With
want
the movie in whole, or just
with the movie as a whole, because like I was really dialed into the whole satire of it, like of him trying to pin a stereotypical Black story and like really lean into it, try to be even more ridiculous with it, and somehow keeps failing upward. It's like it's
yeah.
kind of like the modern version of The Producers a little bit. And
Yes. Yeah.
so like when it was those parts of the movie, I was super dialed in. I was
Okay.
so happy. I was so like laugh out loud, so having such a great time
Yeah.
that not all of the family drama, which takes up a large chunk of the movie,
Right.
doesn't always it didn't always work for me.
Oh, interesting. Because I really liked the family aspects of it, even though it was super depressing. Like let's not get the the stuff about his writing is the dark comedy of what's going on, and it is really funny, as you mentioned. The stuff that's going on with his family is really mostly very depressing. It really is, and the whole first act is that, and the first act of the movie, it's really heavy and really sad, and it's an exploration of how he crawls out from that and uses this phony success as almost like a life preserver of, you know, of keeping afloat in spite of his best efforts to not to, like literally it's just he constantly sabotages everything he does, and yet you know, there he is. And I just love the juxtaposition of it all. Like I loved it.
Yeah, like I think it the first act of the movie, I think is kind of where maybe it lost me a little bit
Which part?
because the first act,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
because it had nothing really necessarily to do with the actions, but like the dialogue was very bantery. Like there
Mhm.
was constant banter, like
Yes.
constantly like we're just throwing jokes at you, but
Yeah,
like in a way that felt more silly, whereas I was like expecting maybe something more sophisticated
yeah,
in the way that we were be presenting with a satire. And
yeah,
so like kind of really threw me off how long it took before we actually got to him writing this book.
yeah. The thing that I really loved about the first act is that it really sets up his problem, which is any story I tell is a Black story because I am a African American, and just because it's not stereotypical in that doesn't mean that you can, you know, minimize my identity. And the Black experience is not the you know, the popular entertainment of the day's presentation of the Black experience. That is a segment of it, yes. That is what gets popularized, yes. But that is not it. And it's that struggle of him trying to convince everybody that this normal life that he has is still part of the Black experience, while also trying to, you know, communicate that in a way that is fulfilling for him. It's just it it's so well layered for me. I like, because his life is so intertwined with his literature, even though he tries to divorce his life from his literature. It's just, I don't know. I loved the way it was stacked like that.
It did work much better once we were able to get to, I think once we started going back and forth between him trying to do this, in a way, kind of a crusade
Yeah,
against publishing companies,
sure.
and like the way it's affecting both his relationship with his family and also with his love interest and with like everyone around him, that also shows the flaws in his thinking in trying to do this crusade, because it becomes so personal that like at some point people have to be like, you're almost doing exactly what you're fighting against.
Right. Exactly. And that's, and it, he personalizes everything so much that it gets lost. It's just, it's so overwhelming, and yet I want to skip forward. We're going to skip to basically the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, where in the first act he finds himself in a book fair, or not a book fair, a book show. I don't remember. Like it's basically like a conference.
It was like a literary award.
No, the conference.
The conference. Yes.
The conference where we first meet Issa Rae's character, Sintara Golden. And she has written a book which is lauded and extolled upon and loved. And, Wright goes in to see what this is all about, because he hasn't read it yet and hasn't really heard much about it. And it's the, as Blair says, the zeitgeist. It is a book that fulfills the zeitgeist, which is just super narrow. And it's just bad grammar, very stereotypical setting,
poverty porn.
Yeah, it's poverty,
as he describes it.
Exactly. And his entire being becomes a crusade against that, but then he has to confront it. And because what happens is that these two end up on the review board for a literary award, and they're 2 of 5 people who are going to award a book, for this year, a new book, this major literary award. And somehow his phony book gets included in with the possible nominees, and he and Ms. Golden don't like it, but the 3 white readers, the 3 white authors, love it. And and basically, he's kind of shocked that Golden doesn't like it, because he confronts her during a lunchtime during one of their meetings and is like, this is kind of what you did. And then she defends her book. That scene to me was so fascinating, because
like the movie is really interesting when it asks really complex questions,
right?
Like it's trying to explore, or it's trying to, with satire, kind of just like literally punch everywhere to see like in all aspects of like this really complex issue. And I was like, I feel like when the movie is trying really hard to answer those really tough questions is when I was really dialed into this movie.
So you had to have loved this scene as much as I did. Then.
I did, yes, because it was him reckoning with his own ideology.
Yeah, and her putting that ideology in his face, while also really coming across as rather hypocritical. Like, it's impossible not to recognize the hypocrisy in her stance.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's, oh man, I feel like I would need to watch it to really. I feel like I do definitely need to watch it again, just because there's just so many ideas throughout the entire movie that it's trying to hit on.
And this scene presents all of them.
Yes.
And it really does. So skipping ahead a little bit, just to, I'm still going to ask the question, but like, I feel like this movie has to be nominated for screenplay just
It could
because
win.
of, yeah,
A lot of people are
bec-
expecting it to win. It's going
because
to
of
be
that scene.
Oppenheimer.
Like, yeah, no, potentially. I mean, the thing is that Oppenheimer, the script is not the power punch,
Nolan
so
is not a good scriptwriter.
no, he's not. I mean, he's perfectly adept, and that's it. Whereas this script, it just absolutely, as you mentioned, packs a punch. I clearly enjoyed the family interplay. I'm just going to throw Sterling K. Brown at you, just because you're going to have to say, okay, you're right, I like that.
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh no! Wow. Okay, I'm sorry.
It was.
I thought everyone loved it. Okay.
It was like, and I don't know if it's necessarily because it's a gay character and I have
Okay.
to have a little bit more opinions about it as a gay
Okay.
woman.
All right.
But like, sometimes there was times where I couldn't tell if we were laughing with his characterization or if we're laughing at his characterization. Like I really did feel like a lot of his character did not have a lot of depth to it. That he
Okay.
was just a recently out gay man now living his life very loosely, and he had definitely had some like really funny quips,
Right.
but I don't think at any point I really ever bought Sterling K. Brown as gay, nor that I was really connected with his character.
Okay. Okay. I can see where you're coming. I can see where you're coming. He is the comic relief here. He's the character that we are clearly allowed to laugh with. Everything else, you're being forced to laugh, but on some level you've done the thing that you're laughing about, subconsciously, consciously, in your past, and you realize later in life that was wrong. Whatever it might be, you're laughing at things, throughout the movie you're laughing at things that are poking fun at yourself, whereas he's the character that it's just like, okay, this is a character that I can latch comedy onto because it is outwardly comedic. And so I guess I could see where you're coming from with
Or maybe I
where.
think it's because it felt like they reduced the gay character to his disappointment having not come out to the father,
Okay.
and how much that played into the family dynamic, which is just,
Yeah.
I'm tired of gay characters or queer characters being kind of reduced to trauma, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Did you get the feeling that all of their lives were difficult though? Like, I didn't get the feeling that the gay character had more trauma than
Well, like
the other
it
siblings.
definitely felt like the character, oh goodness. It felt to me like the character, because he has that one big emotional scene that happens like later in the movie,
Which is a really good scene. I
which
felt.
is a scene, and
Yeah.
I feel, and it's a scene that I felt like I've seen so many times of just being like, I wish I could have. Maybe it was because I had already just seen All of Us Strangers
Yeah,
about
possibly. Yeah.
about a
Yeah.
gay man having to like
And the gay
within.
characters were not punchlines in that movie
And they're
at all.
not.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, it could have honestly been a straight, like you could have told the same story almost with him being a person being straight,
Yeah.
and like him being gay added a layer, but did not, like, it did not simplify it
Yeah. Well, but
to
it added a complexity. Like, that's.
Groundhog Gay.
Yeah.
Blair. But I think that's where, like, there are times where I thought he was really funny. Like, if he
Yeah.
was just like, did you ever see what was it? Dolomite Is My Name?
Yes.
If he was kind of like the Wesley Snipes character, who was just very flamboyant, but he was clearly the comedic character,
Uh-huh.
then like I could have maybe bought it more than
Okay.
when it was trying to say like, oh, he's having issues connecting and having his life in order because of all the things that he's going through. And also his changing dynamic, having come out recently as gay and having a difficult relationship with his parents,
Mhm.
which I don't know. Like I did not, I did not I did not buy connecting to his story. Whereas I think if he was just like sassy, flamboyant, gay, was able to have all these comedic moments and then be able to um and then maybe have an emotional scene that was not connected to what he's personally going through, then maybe
Well, but that
I
the one scene that he had with his brother was not about what he was going through. It was really very much about what his brother was going through, and he was showing his depth of character and his depth of his ability to, even though he spends the entire movie very much wrapped up in himself, that scene shows you that yes, he's wrapped up in himself because he has spent his entire life not being able to do that, but he still recognizes this. Hey, brother, this is what's going on with you. These are the things that you need to rectify. And I thought it was I thought that scene really worked for me. I like when the comedic characters have those moments of I'll just call them clarity, even though it's not clarity as much as it is depth. I liked that. I don't know. I could.
yeah, I mean, I could like it maybe just better
Okay.
now that I've seen it,
Yeah,
now
you
that
have
I
the
know what the
expectation.
movie
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are just certain movies out there that once once I can understand what the movie is like as a whole, which is that it's mainly a family drama, that
Yeah.
a family like a darkly comedic family drama, but still
Right.
mostly a family drama, whereas I wanted to go in for the satire, and the
Right.
satire I really liked, and then the
Yeah.
family drama I just wasn't in the mood for it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like
That
I
might. I
think
could see that. I could see that not being in
Yeah,
the
and
mood
I
for it.
think I will most likely watch it again, and I probably will most likely with a lot of movies I've watched this year, like Oppenheimer, I'll
Mhm.
probably like it again more with each subsequent viewings now that I'm just like, okay, this is what the movie is.
Yeah, now you
Uh,
know where it's coming from. And that leads us to the last 5 minutes. Um, and let me set the scene. I went alone, but the theater was half full, which is pretty good. Um, and the audience throughout, everybody's kind of, laughing. There's not a lot throughout the movie of like, ha ha ha, laugh out loud. It's just a lot of really intelligent comedy. And then you get to the end, and um, before we even discuss should we do spoilers, I start laughing like a maniac. Like I absolutely lost it. Blair can tell you. Have you ever seen The Meaning of Life, Monty Python?
oh yeah.
Okay, so the find the fish scene. Like I can't even think about that scene without I can't think about that scene without like just starting to laugh. Like just thinking about that scene makes me laugh. And then when I see it, I laugh uncontrollably to the point where like I am crying and can't breathe and I'm on the floor and no matter how many times I've seen that scene, like I have tried to not do that. I have tried to watch that scene and not die laughing uncontrollably. That tells you that my favorite kind of humor is absurdist humor. Like I just love it. I love absurdist humor. I love meta humor. And the last 5 minutes of this movie in my mind is meta absurdist gold. And I literally was dying laughing. People were laughing at me, not so much the movie, because of how much I was laughing at it. And like the movie ended and I was walking out to my car and I was still laughing all the way to my car. I got in my car and like I finally was able to calm down a little bit by the time I got in my car. That's how funny I love the final 5 minutes. So I don't know if I want to or don't want to talk to you about them. What were your feelings on the last 5 minutes?
I wish the trailer did not spoil it.
Does the
The
trailer spoiler
the
spoiler
trailer
it?
does spoil it.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that's where immediately once the ending started the way it was going to, I knew exactly where it was going.
Okay.
And I think that took a little bit of the air out of it because, like,
Okay.
it's a brilliant ending.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
loved it.
good. In a
I loved
year
it.
full of brilliant endings, even in
Yeah.
movies I don't like, have amazing endings. But, like, yeah, they did spoil it, and I felt like
I
if
missed it.
I had the surprise element
Yeah.
of just, like, not knowing where it's going, and then it finally goes there,
Yeah.
then I would have had that shock laughter that probably would have had the similar reaction of just like,
Right.
"Holy shit," because when the
Okay.
movie goes there,
Yeah.
you're just, like, almost nervously laughing just to not think about too hard how dark it is.
I was not nervous of that. I was laugh out loud on rolling on the floor laughing because like this so this is a mild spoil. There are multiple endings. Like I just that's all I'll say. There are multiple endings. And as soon as I realized there was going to be multiple endings, I that's when it just clicked on me and I fucking died. I just absolutely fucking died. And God bless it. It fell into adaptation, like the movie adaptation. I
I
fucking
love adaptation.
right. And this movie owes the last 5 minutes of this movie
That's
owes so
right. This
much.
is a lot like adaptation.
Yeah.
I had never thought about that.
Yeah. And if you've liked adaptation at all, you absolutely have to see this movie. If you like absurdist humor at all, you have to see this movie. If you like dark humor at all, you have to see this movie. Okay, Kristen, uh, nominations. Jeffrey Wright's a shoe in, just an absolute shoe
I
in.
think so. I
The
think picture, I
picture's a
think
shoe in.
actor, I think Sterling K. Brown might get in.
Yeah,
Adapted screenplay, I think it's gonna win.
I
Um,
I think it's I think it's a pretty much shoe in as well.
and it could also get editing and maybe a score. It had a nice jazz score. I
That's
love
true. It
jazz,
did have a nice
so
jazzy
like
score.
I threw it
It
on
had
my
a
top 5,
very
my
subtle
personal
jazzy
5
score.
score.
Is there one that you know it's not going to get, but you would love to see?
Honestly, score, and I
Okay,
think that's just
that's
because
fair. That's a good
I'm
one.
a little underwhelmed with the scores I think that are gonna get in.
So
Like,
you don't like the Oppenheimer score, is what you're
I'm
saying?
not a big fan of
That's what
Oppenheimer's score.
that's what you're saying. Like if you say what you just said, you're that's your way of saying I just didn't care for the
Well,
Oppenheimer
like,
score.
or for example, one that's gonna get nominated that I'm still wrapping my head around is, the score for Killers of the Flower Moon, which I
Oh,
didn't even remember the score, but
yeah.
that's also, I think, one of
The
those
I wish more
possibly
of
gonna
the
get in.
Killers of the Flower Moon score was more like the music that they played during the trailer. And that's all I'll say about it. Like I thought the trailer music was super powerful and super effective, and I didn't think that it translated as well in the feature film.
Yeah, but we have to I think we're still trying to table my thoughts on Killers until we talk about Oscars,
Sure.
'cause
Okay.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay. The one that I know it's not going to get, but I would love to see is Erica Alexander, who played
Oh, yeah, she was
Jeffrey
so
Wright's
good.
character. Yeah, I haven't heard any buzz around her, and I don't get it because she just the best understated character in this movie. Really, really anchored the whole thing. I thought. I don't think this movie works at all if that character isn't played as perfectly as she does, and I need to give her a shout out.
Yeah, no, she's really, really good.
Yeah,
Like, I think in another year I mean, honestly, I feel like this year she should be considered because
yeah.
supporting actress is really weak this year for some
That
reason.
yeah, well, because Best Actress is just an all-time stacked year,
It's a
but
bloodbath.
supporting is oddly, off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as Sandra Hüller gets in, I don't care who else gets in
there
for
you go.
actress.
All right, where do you fall on your taco rating?
I give it 3 tacos plus guac. I
Okay,
think that my viewing experience is tempered a little bit with how the movie was marketed.
okay,
And I do feel like I will probably like it more once I give it more subsequent viewings. Like, I'm gonna buy this movie. Like, it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I think it's also a good movie to watch with people. Like
Right.
kind of like Barbie, where like Barbie is fun, but watching it with a group of people and getting to see their reactions along with yours is
For
like,
sure.
to
Yeah.
me, like the perfect experience to see American Fiction.
Yeah. This is my favorite movie of the year so far. I'm giving it 5 tacos plus guac. I absolutely, and it's dethroning Asteroid City. And for a Wes Anderson movie to be dethroned, I had to have found something super special in it. But I'm going to be honest, that's just because, like I'd mentioned, I mean, the humor in this movie is just 100% up my alley. So, yeah, this is my number one. Asteroid City's number two. Poor Things is number three right now. So those are my top three. Finally, we are going to talk about a little film from Finland called Fallen Leaves. This is the story. This is we had an interesting conversation up front, and we commented how of all the three movies, you would expect. Oh no, I lost Kristen. Damn it. Hopefully, Kristen will be able to come back in. Yeah, dropped. I'm just letting Kristen know that she dropped. Hopefully, she'll be able to come back in. Fallen Leaves. Kristen and I had commented how Fallen Leaves was was ostensibly going to be, of the three movies that we saw, at face value, the least depressing, but also once you actually sat down and watched it, might have been the most depressing. This is a it's billed as romantic comedy, but it's an interesting. Oh, she's here. You're
Hi,
back.
time
Hi.
for my computer to crash.
Nice. I see. Well,
Right
I'm
in the
glad that you.
middle of you saying it's your favorite. So American Fiction was your favorite movie of the year?
Yeah, American Fiction 1, Asteroid City 2, Poor Things 3. That's my top 3 right now. And
That's
that's
a good top
very
three.
fluid. That's very fluid, by the way. Like, I could very easily see, like, in about a month, Poor Things being 1, Asteroid City being 2, and American Fiction being 3. But those are my 3 top 5-star movies. So yeah.
Awesome.
Fallen Leaves, however, is a little too depressing to make my top 5. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, although I really liked it. And so this is a little movie. It is a little movie out of Finland that packs a lot of heart and heart-wrenching. I think that's the best way to describe it. We are presented with two characters who are middle-aged, clearly in their 40s, maybe probably in their 40s. Two characters who are in their 40s, single in Finland. Neither one of them is doing all that great from a socioeconomic standpoint, but they're getting by, and they're getting by alone, and they happen upon each other. And it's literally the story of how can two people at this point in their lives make each other's lives a little better. I mean, that's really what the story is about in my mind.
I think it's about two people making terrible decisions, falling in love with each other.
Great. I think those are synonymous. The thing you said and the thing I said are rather synonymous. um, the things that I liked the most about this movie were just how understated it is. Just how it doesn't try to be anything grandiose. It just tries to really present two people that are trying to live. And I really liked both of the characters. I genuinely did. And for their faults and for what they're trying to accomplish in life, which is really not a lot. This is not a big ideas movie at all, but it really does kind of present the possibilities, I feel.
I'm going to be really honest.
Sure.
I did not like this movie. I
Oh, wow,
really
really?
did not like this movie.
Okay, cool, talk about it.
Um,
What were your problems?
I think my problems were I found that the premise of these 2 people were so depressing that,
Okay.
like and the movie is it's a dark comedy, and its
Yes.
comedy is, like, it's very straight, it's very dry, it's very like, there were times where, like, I did kind of laugh,
Mhm.
partially, I think, because it was, like, when she's working at the supermarket, and then it just cuts to her boss just, like, staring at her, like, from a distance, like a little creep, and, like, there were times like that where I was like, "Okay, this is kind of funny, I think I can kind of get into what this movie's trying to do."
Yeah,
But then just, like, watching them having to fumble through life,
yeah.
trying to get jobs, having jobs fall through, not having money problems, having alcoholism, like,
Yes, yeah.
and having a mix of all those things like interfere with their ability to connect with each other
Mhm.
just really bummed me out watching this movie.
Yes. So in my view of it, I found the warmth of these people in those
Oh, I'm
very
sorry,
loving.
Blair.
He didn't make this movie.
I
He's
know.
he's saying that to be a jerk.
I
Not to
know.
jerk, a smart ass, because he is a smart ass. Um, I thought that the warmth that is found. This is what I'll say. I feel like Fallen Leaves is the best title for a movie this year that's not obvious. Like Oppenheimer, it's like, okay, it's fucking obvious. Barbie, it's fucking obvious.
Yes.
I feel like Fallen Leaves is just an absolutely beautiful metaphor for what is going on. These are two people who at one point in time were up on a tree. At one point in time were probably beautiful, you know, but once the leaves fall, eventually it gets a little dirty and eventually it gets a little difficult, and that these two fallen leaves are able to, as the wind blows them, be able to circulate together and find each other in the mayhem within all the fallen leaves. I j- for You are 100% right. It is so, like, their lives are so depressing, but that they don't let that prevent them from finding warmth and tenderness. Uh, I thought that was I thought I really that really connected with me.
Yeah, and like it's it's one of those movies that I watched and I was like, I know why people find this romantic. I know why people find this funny. Like,
Yeah,
I can imagine having watched this at the Chicago Film Festival and having just a lot of people dialed into its humor. And it's
yeah,
just, for some reason, it just didn't work for me.
yeah,
And
and that's
like,
totally fair.
and then maybe, or like, I don't think I was necessarily in a bad mood. I think I
Mhm.
was just watching it knowing that it was going to use this depressing premise in a way that was gonna be romantic, but also like it's definitely playing tragic parts for humor.
Mhm.
And for some reason, I could not get in line with it. Although
Okay.
I do love the metaphor that you used at the Fallen Leaves. I do think that's like its title is really good. Like the way it's filmed is really, really good.
Mhm.
I just could not make heads or tails of it for me.
Okay. Um, just super quick, Oscar. I feel like this has a really good chance to be nominated in the international film, only because I feel like it has, the warmth that I was talking about. If you connect with that, I feel like people are going to be like, this is different than everything else that's being presented right now, and I kind of want different. The people who kind of want different are going to, I think, be very attracted to this movie.
Yeah, and I think like the same people who really liked did you ever see Yorgos Lanthimos's Dogtooth.
Dogtooth, I haven't yet. It's so high on my list. I just haven't
I
gotten
feel
to
like
it
the
yet.
people who liked Dogtooth would probably be really into this movie. And
Okay.
like I love Dogtooth. I think it's absurd and insane. And I feel like the type of voter who would probably appreciate both its romantic aspects but also its darkly comedic aspects would probably
Mhm.
vote for it, because we talked about, like, we went through the list of like the 15 that are
The
shortlisted,
short
and
list,
like
yeah.
it
There's a
has a
lot of
pretty good
darkness
chance.
there. Yeah, there's a lot of sadness and darkness on that list.
Yeah,
A
like
lot.
Denmark's Promised Land, dour movie.
Okay.
Rules, but dour movie.
Yeah, the UK Zone of Interest,
Zone of Interest,
not the
dour
feel-good
movie.
movie of the year. Yeah. Like, this is going to be the the counterbalance to the other 4, I feel like.
I
I
agree.
think that's just how it's gonna be. And I don't think it has
Yeah.
a chance of winning, because I think
And
in
it's
the
an
end,
acclaimed
people are
director
gonna.
too. So like that
Yeah.
director's been making films in Finland for like decades. Like this is
Yeah.
actually the second movie I've seen of his. And
Oh,
so
cool. Okay. This
I
was my
should have
first ever Finnish
probably
film.
oh
So, yeah, and my son
yeah,
went.
you
It
should.
was kinda cool. I should search out his
What
other
did your
ones.
son think?
He liked it. Yeah, he thought it was he liked it. He thought it was nice. He thought it was good.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, I'm gonna share, what Blair shows here. Nordic comic timing is not for.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Oh.
I know a lot of Nordic people. Like people who I even have like a friend who lives in Finland. So like yeah,
So
I
there you
can
go.
understand. Like I went into this knowing that like Finnish humor, Nordic humor can sometimes be not what we're used to like
Yeah.
in the West. And
Yeah.
so we're the West, right? Yeah, we're the
Yeah.
West.
We're the West. Yes.
Yes. So like I tried to go into it and try to be kind to it, and unfortunately I was just not into it.
That's okay. So where are you landing on the taco scale?
One.
Oh no!
I gave it one
I'm not
taco.
I'm not letting that linger for very long. It gets 4 tacos for
I'm
me.
sorry.
No, that's okay. No, it's honest though, and that's why we like you, Kristen. All right. Hey, this was awesome. What a show. I thank you so much for coming on, Kristen. I'm so excited. So the Oscars are the nominations are being announced on Tuesday. When do you want to do an Oscar show? Do you want to do it closer to the show, or do you want to like? We haven't even talked about this. I'm
I mean,
talking to you live right
we
now.
can discuss like we can come back and like discuss nominations, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of interesting.
Do you want to
I'm
come
like,
in next week to discuss nominations, and then the week after to talk about Zone of Interest?
yeah.
Is that
See, like I'm
something
just
you want to
hoping
do?
it's not like 2019, because not 20. Yeah, like 2019 where it was Paris, where like where was it? You had 4 movies that got 10 nominations. So like every
Yeah.
single category was The Irishman, 1917 was
That was not 2019. That was 2020, right? Or
yeah, for the movies of 2019.
yeah. Oh, right,
And
right. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Joker
okay.
and
Yeah.
like
I
Joker
fucking hated The
and
Irishman so much. I can't.
oh man, The
It's
Irishman.
it to
Respect
this
it,
day.
can't watch it again.
To this
But
day, it's one
like,
of my least favorite movies I've ever seen in my life. I hate
oh
that movie so much.
really?
I hate it. I hate it.
Damn.
I literally hate it. Like I watched it twice because the first time through I hated it so much, and everybody's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's so good." And then I watched it again. It's like, no, this movie. There's literally nothing going on in this movie that's even remotely good. It is so miscast. It is the most miscast movie in the history of movies. I hate it. I hate it.
I do
Sorry.
think I will. Oh, I was gonna like comment on Blair's comment that better than Cats.
It's not
Does
bad.
he
I would
know that
much.
I actually like Cats, the
I
movie?
don't. I don't. It is not better than I would. Cats is is charming if not disturbing.
It's
The
like it should
Irishman.
be the Smithsonian, I think, for how insane of a movie it is.
Right.
Like, how
Exactly.
can so many people misfire in a single movie that it's almost
Yes.
art?
Yeah. Whereas in The Irishman, I know how they all misfired because they just didn't try. They didn't try at all. They were just like, hey, look,
Oh,
we're
that was for
Robert
this
De Niro.
episode.
We're Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Martin Scorsese, so we can just make any fucking movie we want. Fuck you. And it's like, no, it actually has to mean something and be good. And you hired Anna Paquin, maybe give her 2 lines, maybe 3. I don't know. If
You
you're
know what
trying, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, you can go.
No,
I was going to tell you my
I'm
biggest
okay.
gripe of The Irishman, if you want to shit on The
Yeah,
Irishman for a second.
sure, go ahead.
My biggest gripe of The Irishman is that since Robert De Niro plays the entirety of the character from like what? From being in his like supposedly in his
20s.
30s to
Yeah,
to like when he's in his 80s.
yeah.
The problem is that like there are moments in the movie where he has to do very physical things and
And
he
he
does not
can't.
move like a
Nope.
30-year-old person. Like the one
Nope.
scene where
At
like
all.
the one scene where he antagonizes the grocer for
Right. It's hilarious.
punishing his daughter
It's
and like
pathetic and
kicks him to the
hilarious.
curb. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is an old man kicking this person the way that
Yeah.
he is moving. He is not moving
Yeah.
like a young person.
He cannot. And that's
Just get a younger
why
actor.
and yes, and it's not like if those were flashbacks, which constituted like 10 to 20% of the movie, I could forgive it. But that's like 60% of the movie. That's like 60 to 70% of the movie. And it's like, I cannot buy Robert De Niro as a 30-year-old. I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. And Jimmy Hoffa, died when he was like 48, 49, 50. And Al Pacino is playing him like he's 80. And it's like, I do not buy into this idea that this 30-year-old dude is
Oh my God.
it's too short. It's at least 2 hours too long. If it had been a 90-minute movie, I would have been like, okay, I see what they're doing here. But as a 3.5 hour, almost 4 hour movie, no. Anyway, okay. Enough on The Irishman. I hear what you're saying. I agree. I think that's what we're destined for. I think we're destined for 13 nominations for Oppenheimer, 10 for Barbie. I think that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah,
But
but I just hope though we just get variety because like the top
there will be some
four,
variety.
like Killer, Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Poor Things are so strong that I'm afraid that we're
Yeah.
going to get a lot of tech nominations that are just those 4 and then a 5th nomination. Like,
Yeah,
I
we'll
hope they
see.
have more variety.
I don't know that we're gonna get the variety, but I think there will be some. I hope there are some surprises. So you do want to come on next week and talk about the Oscar?
Yeah, I
nods.
can come on next Wednesday.
All right, cool. We'll do it then. And then I will
Yay.
also be reviewing recently released streaming movies that I have skipped up until today,
Oh,
or
which
up
ones?
until next week. So I'll send you the list of what.
Okay,
I'll
that's
be
cool.
like, well, yeah. You're more than welcome to chime in on those. We're not going to spend a lot of time on them. We're going to spend the bulk
Okay.
of the time talking Oscar noms. But okay, cool.
Hell
So
yeah.
Kristen, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much again for your time. I loved our discourses on all 3 movies. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you so
thank
much
you
for
to all-
having me.
Always, it's an open door. And thank you to everyone for coming on and watching and chiming in. This has been Real to Real Talk. We'll see you next week.